Hi everyone, thanks very much for joining us today. Today I'm going to talk through our Hormone Help Hour just to give you some background as to what to expect and how the session can potentially help you and your practice. I'll also talk about the HIT test and in a little bit of detail. I'm not going to go into too much, just so you've got an idea of what the test is as well. So I'll just quick introduction to the team. A bit about education we have on the HIT test, why we're holding this help hour, more detail on the actual test, and then we'll go over to some Q&As. But hopefully, I think you know us all by now. For those of you who don't, my name's Charlotte Hunter. I'm a nutritionist and I'm head of KBMO here in the UK. I've got Lynette here who works in our customer services. So if you're ordering kits regularly, I'm sure you'll have either spoken to Lynette or emailed her. Kelly, who you'll have seen at events with me, she also works for KBMO in developing our clinics and our business development. Claire is, well, everyone knows Claire. Claire's on the call today, but she's also responsible for our practitioner support and is really, the brains of the operation. Natasha, again, you'll have come across Natasha in a lot of the practitioner groups. She often follow-ups from many of these webinars as well. And Emily, who is also on the call today, who is the one who communicates with you all and emails you and makes sure that everything happens when it's supposed to happen. So today we're going to talk about the Hormone Insights test, which is a new test that we're distributing. And I'm just going to get this out of the way. This is the elephant in the room even. So it's really easy to get stuck in a rut using the same tests simply because we know them and we're familiar with them. I've done it for years. So I've used Dutch for years and I've spent the last, I think 8 years now educating and mentoring practitioners around Dutch testing and hormone testing in the context of a nutrition practice, I will add. But it doesn't mean that they're always the best option for our clients or our practices. We're in that rut and we're using them because we're familiar with them and we just think, oh, it's too much hassle to learn about a new test. Well, hopefully we're going to change that. And this is really where the HIT test comes in. So you could say it's a completely fresh approach, but actually it's the science that many of the current urine hormone metabolite tests, including Dutch, was actually built on. So this is the original hormone test. So what I'm going to do is just give you a few pointers as to why you might like to consider not going Dutch anymore. That's probably very naughty of me to say that, but hey. So the Hormone Insights test, it's actually powered by the Advanced Hormone Urine Metabolites test by ZRT. It looks at 44 hormone markers, 13 estrogens, 8 androgens. We have progesterone markers in there, diurnal cortisol, and melatonin, and it also includes BPA, which is rarely measured in a lot of the tests that you may currently be using. Or the test that you are using does measure it, but it's incredibly expensive and cost prohibitive for a lot of our clients. So, as I said, it was developed by ZRT Laboratory. They are pioneers in hormone testing. And HIT stands for Hormone Insights Test. Now, the reason we changed the name is quite simple, because every time we try to do webinars or announcements, we couldn't actually say the name. So we decided to abbreviate it to something that fits with our other tests, like the FIT and the CIT test, and then also our organic acid test, which will be coming in the new year. So ZRT might be new to some of you in the context of hormone testing, but they're not new to the science. In fact, as I said before, they developed the very first urine metabolites hormone test and is the foundation that all the others were built upon. So it's not a fad, it's not a knockoff, it's not a fancy new test on the block that hasn't got any legacy. This is the original test with a proven track record. And we are really excited to be partnering with them to bring this test to you. so that it's affordable and certainly competitively priced if you look at some of the other urine tests on the market. So I'd also like to mention Dr. Shania Sieber, who's on the call today. I didn't know she was going to be on the call today, so I hope I've completely embarrassed her. So Shania has done some brilliant webinars for us. So looking at why ZRT is different, why it's important, also looking at the test itself, so understanding all of the hormone metabolites and the different markers on the test. And also she brings all of that information together in a case study using the HIT test in practice. So it's a trio of foundational webinars that you need to watch. In addition to that, we've also got a webinar on estrogen metabolism, which just pulls out the estrogen part of the test. But we're building a library of resources for you, and we'll be adding fact sheets, guides, cheat sheets as we go along. So really, we just want to hear from you what you want, and we'll do our best to support that and give you the resources that will help you. So why hold a hormone health hour? Well, this is why. When you first look at a hormone metabolite report, it can feel totally overwhelming. It's like fireworks going off all at the same time, and you don't know which direction to look. So there's different colors, different types of fireworks, and in a similar way, when you look at these hormone reports, it's the same. You've got data flying at you from all angles, and it's really difficult sometimes to work out where to focus, what matters most, and how you can start making sense of it. So we don't want you to panic, because you don't need to take it all in at once. So what we're going to do is help you break that down. And in terms of the fireworks, this is your firework display, the steroid hormone cascade. All steroid hormones start with cholesterol, which is converted to pregnenolone before branching down into this full cascade. And these pathways are going to be shaped by nutrition, environment, stress, genetics, and really any factors that are going to push or pull them in helpful or harmful directions. And if you're working with hormones, knowing these pathways is really non-negotiable. You know, you may not get it straight away, but you really should set a goal to at least be able to roughly map this out, you know, on a blank bit of paper. You know, I should be able to say, look, just briefly sketch out the main pathways on the hormone cascade. And you should be able to do that. But we will help you. And the more you use the test, the more familiar you'll hopefully become with these pathways. But you will see this diagram in every HIT test report. It's available on our website, so you can print one out as a reference guide. In fact, I'd encourage you to print some out and just scribble all over them. We're starting to pull together, you know, our own KBMO version, where we're adding some of the things that will support these pathways. So the Hormone Health Hour was really born out of just a simple idea that we learn best when we work together. Hormone testing and the results, they can be complex, and sometimes it's really easy to feel unsure or isolated when you're working in practice, especially now as we're all working, well, mostly working remotely. So this session is giving you the opportunity and a place to ask questions, share ideas, and grow your learning alongside colleagues who are probably facing the same challenges that you are. We're really passionate about education and coaching rather than just handing out the answers. So it's about helping you develop the understanding and confidence to interpret hormones and the test data in a way that's going to support your own practice and improve your client outcomes. So the Hormone Help Hour is not a lecture. It's not, you know, for me to sit here and just tell you stuff. It's more a conversation. So it's about building our community, supporting professional confidence, and I suppose increasing and deepening your understanding of how hormone testing fits in real world situations. It's not sort of an abstract lecture on a random topic. This is really to help you make sense of all of this. Also, what we want to do is give you the tools and the knowledge that you don't feel like you have to book a support call for every single client that you work with. We absolutely will support you comprehensively with your first report, and that'll be a one-to-one session, probably with me at the moment, and then the other members of the team as we we get busier, because this test is really new to us. It's only been available for a few weeks. So rather than sitting there thinking, I've got a set of results and I've got a client appointment in a week, I can't get a support call, now I'm going to have to delay seeing my client, and then you sort of lose that momentum with the sessions that you've got booked. So we want you to be able to pick up the test and know what it means. The best way to do that is just keep turning up to these sessions and learning more and more about the reports, because it's essentially a numbers game. The more you see, the more you work with it, and more you can see the patterns, the easier that interpretation will be for you. So I just want to give you a quick overview of the test. So what does it measure? Well, we've got the key parent hormones, so estrogens, progesterones, androgens. We have cortisol and also their metabolites. This means that you're not going to see just a snapshot of hormone levels. You're also going to see how those hormones are being processed and metabolized in the body, which can be helpful, or as we said earlier, also harmful. So you do genuinely get a comprehensive panel, but it's in a format that's simple to read. You're not going to see any crazy dials and complicated diagrams. Unfortunately, some of the hormone metabolite tests, their content hasn't really changed, but how they present the data is becoming more and more confusing. And that's the feedback we've had from practitioners. In most hormone panels, you'll get melatonin as a one-off marker. So that's generally not as insightful as looking at a diurnal pattern, because your melatonin may be high or low, but having it as a single measurement is just a bit so what. It doesn't really tell you anything. So it's much better to see that there's patterns in practice, or I suppose over a period of time. So I've talked about what we cover. What we don't do, that you may be familiar with in some of your tests, is the inclusion of organic acids. And I think that's what we don't have on this particular test. But I think we just have to have a bit of a reality check on that. There is limited scope. Dutch only includes a very small set of organic acids. So mainly those neurotransmitter metabolites, so HVA, VMA, a few nutrient-related markers as well, and also got glutathione. In contrast, a full oat panel is typically running CEF 70 plus markers. So that includes things like mitochondrial function, dysbiosis, oxalates, fatty acid metabolism, detox. So it's much, much more comprehensive. So the Dutch organic acids only give you a tiny snapshot. It's not giving you a metabolic overview. So you shouldn't really be focusing all your efforts on that, because those few organic acids really may lead you to do more testing. You're not going to get a lot of information just from those. The panel's small, so the patterns are harder to isolate. So for example, a low B6 marker might be due to intake, metabolism, could be gut issues, absorption, but without supporting markers, you can't really glean much more from it. Similarly, with the neurotransmitter metabolites, they can shift due to stress, diet, your gut microbiome. And the Dutch doesn't give you enough surrounding data to clarify that. And I suppose those first couple of points I've made really, I suppose, make the point that they're not a true replacement for dedicated oat testing. Some practitioners do think, well, I'll do the Dutch because I get some organic acids, but in no way is that any substitute for a full panel. They're really just an adjunct, a bonus, rather than a standalone diagnostic tool. And also there is a huge risk of overinterpretation, because they're presented alongside the steroid hormones, there's this tendency for practitioners, especially if you're not very experienced, to overinterpret those small shifts in these markers. But without a full clinical picture or with a wider set of metabolites, you can easily chase the wrong things or chase things that aren't that meaningful. And I think that's particularly true of the neurotransmitter markers and maybe the inflammatory markers as well. You just get a little snapshot. So I know that sounds a bit negative, but it's that reality check of the data that you're currently using. So why is the HIT different? Well, I suppose this is really why you should be excited about the HIT. You know, the data is relevant. I think there's great information about progesterone, which I think is notoriously underassessed in other tests. It's presented with simple reference bar ranges, easy to read graphs, and you're not complicated by, you know, loads of dials and slider bars and dials and what do you call them? I can't think of the name of that one. And it's convenient. It's another at-home test. The pricing is competitive, so that allows good margins for you as practitioners, which means more money in your back pocket. You may want to consider using the FIT if your clients or patients have a family history of hormone-dependent conditions or cancers, adrenal issues, stress, hormone imbalances such as weight gain or insomnia, symptoms of PCOS, so acne, facial hair, menopause, you know, before, during, after hormone replacement therapy, and also if your client has symptoms of estrogen dominance. I don't really like that phrase. It sort of kind of makes me a bit twitchy, but where there may be a strong estrogen picture, especially if someone is using HRT. So really anything hormone related, stress related, adrenal, women's health in general, but it's also applicable to men and younger people. And if you have any questions about when to test on those people, you know, we can all support you with that. And the pricing, so practitioner price is $249. The suggested retail price is around $299. And that's, we've priced it there so we can be competitive with Dutch. And we always offer free postage and returns, so you never need to pay that within the UK. If you have clients overseas, so in America, Australia, Middle East, you know, we've got distributors around the world. We also have a distributor in Ireland now, so we have Kenko Health. So if you are based in Europe or you have clients in Europe, please contact us and we can share the details for you. So thank you very much. That was just an overview of why we're running the Hormone Help Hour, and hopefully it's given you a very, very simple overview of the test as well. But if you do have any questions, please get in touch.